This is Now What? Life After Redundancy, when your job disappears, but you don't. Hello, I'm Stevie, and you're joining me on my journey through and hopefully past redundancy, where I'm regularly asking myself the question, now what? And this podcast is essentially about what happens after the job ends. It's the practical stuff like interviews, CVs, confidence, and rebuilding momentum. It's also about the emotional stuff like the spirals, the quiet days, the tiny wins that don't look impressive on paper, and that awkward reality of trying to be a functioning adult while your brain is quietly refreshing your inbox like it's a sport. I also aim to keep it honest and a bit funny, because if you don't laugh occasionally, you will just end up crying into a bowl of cereal at 11 AM on a Tuesday, and then you have to explain that to the child who was eating the cereal at the time. Today's episode is about personal brands. And that phrase alone might make you feel like you need to sit up straighter, update your LinkedIn header, and buy a blazer that you'll never actually wear. For a long time, I thought personal brand was something that you got issued with when you reached a certain level at work. I thought it lived somewhere between a lanyard that opens doors you don't understand and a Teams profile photo where you're holding a coffee and laughing at absolutely nothing, like you've just been told the world's funniest joke about synergy. But then redundancy happens and suddenly people say, have you thought about your personal brand? And it lands like they've asked you what your favourite font is. You want to answer, but your brain is like, I'm currently focusing on breathing and remembering to eat lunch. So here is why you should listen to this one. Personal brands aren't about becoming a human logo. It's not about posting motivational quotes over sunset photos. In real terms, a personal brand is simply the shortcut people use to understand what you do, how you do it, and what it's like to work with you. And when you can name that clearly, two things happen. You basically stop chasing every possible role like it's the last available chair in musical chairs, and you start showing up more consistently, which means people can actually remember you for the right reasons. So in this episode, I'm going to make personal brands feel concrete and normal. I'm going to explain what it means in real terms, how to figure out yours, and how to apply it so it grounds your decisions and makes your next steps feel less chaotic. Also, as a first for the podcast today, I'll be joined by Lisa Heyward, who's a higher educational professional specialising in examinations and assessment. Lisa is also on the redundancy journey, and I'm going to be asking her some questions about personal brands. If you'd like to support the show, the simplest thing you can do is follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. If you have a moment, leaving a rating or a review genuinely helps because it tells the platforms that this is worth showing to other people. And if you know someone navigating redundancy, a career pivot, or that slightly panicky, who even am I professionally phase, please share this episode with them. You can send it without any caption. I'll give you permission. Anyway, right, let's get into it. So, let's start with the issue. The term personal brand sounds like marketing. It sounds like you're about to be asked to position yourself as if you were a new yogurt. It also carries this weird pressure that you need to be impressive all the time. It can feel like you're meant to have a perfectly polished about me statement, ready to deploy at any moment, like you're a human press release. But in real life, personal brand already exists, whether you like it or not. It just exists in other people's heads. It's the story people tell themselves about you when your name comes up. So, thinking about this from a real-life comparison side and the thing that made it click for me, if you imagine you've got a local shop that you love, so it could be a cafe, a corner shop, a takeaway, whatever. You don't love that shop because it has a logo. You love that shop because you know what you're going to get. You know the vibe, the quality, you know how they're going to treat you, you know whether it's the place you go when you want something quick and easy, or the place you go when you want something done properly, or the place you go where you want someone to calm you down and say, "You're not mad, that's annoying." This is brand in real life. It's consistency, trust, it's expectation. Personal brand is basically the same thing. It's the consistent you-ness that people can rely on. It's the conversation of what you're good at, how you work, what you care about, and how you make people feel. And the reason it matters, especially in redundancy, is that the redundancy piece messes with your identity. So when you've been in a role for a long time, your job title becomes that shortcut to your sense of self. You don't realize how much it's been holding your professional story together until it's suddenly gone. And when you're job hunting, people have very little time and very little attention. Recruiters are doing hard work, but they're skimming. Hiring managers, they're comparing. Networking conversations are short. If your story is fuzzy, you end up doing a lot of explaining. And you can also end up applying for things that aren't right for you because you're aiming for something rather than aiming for the thing that fits. So having a clear personal brand helps you do 3 practical things. It helps you decide what to pursue and what to ignore, which is huge when your brain is in scarcity mode, then every job alert feels like it could be the one. It helps you present yourself consistently across your CV, LinkedIn, interviews, and any other ad hoc conversations you may have, so you're not reinventing yourself every time. And it also helps other people help you. If someone knows what you're all about, they can think of you when that opportunity comes up. If they don't know, they can't do that. So, to be clear, the goal here is not to invent a new sparkly personality. The goal is just to name the truth of what people already value in you and just make it easier for them to understand. And that's it. That's personal brand in real terms. Now, before we get into some of the more practical things we can do regarding personal brand, I'd like to introduce Lisa Heyward. Now, Lisa is a higher educational professional specialising in examinations and assessment. She has led the assessment and examinations team at King's College London during and after the pandemic and went on to champion in-person and digital assessment with Teamco. Now, having recently been made redundant, we're talking about the impact of redundancy on sense of self and personal brand. Roll VT. So thank you, Lisa, for joining me today. You're actually the first guest on the show, so I really, really appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to us. Just as a starting point, it'd be great if you could give me kind of a high-level overview of who you are and where you come from.
Hi, Steve. Thank you very much for having me. It's really exciting to be here and to be the first guest. So my background is higher education. I've spent many years working in universities and I came up through the kind of exams and assessment route, particularly exams. I ended my time at universities at King's College London. And while I was there, I led the transition post-COVID from online digital assessment in a remote setting and brought it into an in-person setting again. Then after King's, I moved on to work for the e-assessment management company, and I've been with them for about 2 years, and I was helping other universities to do the same thing and was heading up their operations team. And then recently I was made redundant from my role, and so I'm now currently in between roles. I'm looking for my next opportunity and thinking about my next chapter.
It sounds like we're on the same journey. And topic today is really around personal brands. Before your role was made redundant, how would you have described what you do? And has that changed at all?
When I was in like the university space, I very much used to sort of say I was an operations leader. And then when I moved over into the e-assessment management company, I used to say to people, I'm the person at the end of the phone that I wished I had when I was trying to do that digital transformation project, because we were the first ones at King's to sort of do it at that scale and to sort of kind of bite the bullet and move back into it. So I didn't have a network of people around me that I could pick up the phone and speak to and kind of problem share and problem half with, if you know what I mean. And so I used to describe myself as the person at the end of the phone that I wish I'd had. I kind of really felt like I was helping others within the sector to achieve goals. And I suppose when a role like that is made redundant, and therefore you've been made redundant from a company, you do start to sort of doubt your place and doubt your footing. And I've taken some time out to reflect, to think about what I actually do have to offer the sector moving forward. And I've had to really kind of have a quiet word of myself and a little wobble of my head to be like, no, absolutely, I can still do those sorts of things, and I can still be that person for people in the sector. And being made redundant doesn't actually change that. And I think that's a really important thing for people to keep in mind, is that just because the role you were doing no longer exists doesn't mean that the value that you added to that has gone with it.
So just from your perspective, when you hear personal brand, what does it mean in real terms for you?
For me, it's very much, if someone was to mention your name in a room that you are not in, what would you like them to say about you? And how would you, what sort of connotations would you like to be associated with your name? That is your brand, and that's who you are and who you show up to be when you're in various different elements of your own life, because we've got our own personal brand at work. We might have a personal brand within our family, within our friendship groups. And for me, that's exactly what it is. It's kind of crafting who you want to be known as within certain circles.
So I guess kind of the real key question is, if I were to go out and ask 3 people who knew you well at work, what's Lisa like? What would they say?
I think they would say I'm very driven individual. I care deeply about what I do, and kind of my wider impact that I have on individuals that I work with, but also the sector that I work within. And well, my old boss used to say, you do what you say you're going to do. And my dad used to say exactly the same thing. He would say to me, oh, Lisa, if you tell me that you're going to do something, I know it will happen. Even if it seems impossible, it will happen. So I think I think they're nice things to be remembered for.
That's definitely nice things to be remembered for. And is that something you consciously developed as a brand beforehand, or is that just something that when you look back and reflect on, you kind of go, actually, that's my brand and that's what it is? Or was it something you drove towards?
I think it was something that probably came about a little bit organically, and then was something that actually I liked to be known for once I realised that people did see those qualities in me. And so then I actively was striving towards kind of developing that further and kind of laying a really strong, solid foundation for that. And I think what I did at King's really did solidify that. Of sort of like, I was saying to people, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to bring this back into an in-person setting. I'm going to be the first one to do it. And I'm not going to lie, some people almost laughed at me, and I had that sort of attitude of, watch me, I'll do it. And because that's just how I am.
Brilliant. So since your role was made redundant and you've begun this journey, has there been any element where you found you needed to talk about yourself and it's felt a bit harder?
So I think the first thing to address is the elephant in the room of, I've been made redundant, or my role's been made redundant. And I think that in previous years and previous economies and governments and all of that sort of political stuff, I think there were really sort of strong negative connotations with being made redundant. And it was seen as something far more personal than it perhaps is today. And those sort of things are really hard to shift. So it's that first kind of hurdle of, this is the reason why I'm seeking employment. And that in itself was a really difficult thing to talk about. For the first 2 or 3 weeks after I received the news, I didn't want to tell anybody. I was quite ashamed of it. But I think also because I think I took it as a personal failure, which it isn't. When I actually think about it, it is just business. It is just how things are. It isn't personal. It isn't about me. Like I said earlier, I still feel I have a lot of value to add to other businesses and organisations within the sector. So I think there's that sort of that first initial acceptance and actually sort of coming out, if you like, of being like, yeah, this happened to me. And so I took the plunge and posted it on LinkedIn. And that was a really big thing for me to do. I was like, oh, I'm publicly telling people about my current situation. It's quite a vulnerable thing to do as well. And the response I got from that was overwhelming. So many people, strangers as well, people that don't know me, that reached out to say, oh, it's sad to hear of your position, but don't worry, keep going, you've got this. Or just people who just wanted to have a chat, and other people in the same position. And it sort of felt like I've accidentally stumbled across a community. Do you know?
Absolutely. That resonates a lot. I mean, as a slight aside, kind of when I began this podcast, I was thinking, I'm going to keep this off LinkedIn. I'm not going to have my name associated with it, not because I'm ashamed of what I'm doing, but I didn't want it to impact the job search. But as I've gone on, like you, kind of, I've realized that it's not a thing to be ashamed of. It is just a journey that some of us have to go on. A point I'd like to kind of understand a bit more on is, was there a particular moment, whether it was in the early weeks or more recently, where you had that realization that you have something to offer? I'm interested to know if there was like a tipping point where you kind of went, oh yeah, this is what's telling me that I'm really good at my stuff.
I think it's when other people in my circle started reaching out for other reasons than just a coffee and just to have a chat. When people started saying, oh, we'd really like to discuss potential opportunities, can we talk to you in a more of a formal and professional setting than just, oh, how are you? You're going through something. And it was a real reminder of how people in my circles and in my sector view me, and how they all think I have something to offer them because they're asking for that from me. And that was a really sort of, kind of like a pivotal moment for me. And it's been really helpful for me to decide what I'd like to do next in terms of my next chapters, and how I sort of navigate the next few months and what I look to do.
Brilliant. Do you feel that in the coming months you're going to work more on your personal brand, or is it more a skills focus, kind of in terms of where you're looking for opportunities?
I think it's a bit of both, because I would really like to go into the consultancy space now, and because I really liked being the person at the end of the phone that people could call upon and speak to, and I really think it's a key time to be helping universities or other organisations to reassess where they are with their assessment piece, look to where they want to go, to also have a sort of an overarching look at the processes and all those sorts of bits and bobs that just sort of get put by the wayside when everyone's in the throes of BAU. And so I'd really like to become that helping hand. And so for me, it's very much about building my personal brand and working on that, and building a network of people to speak to, whether that's potential clients or whether that's also people in this space, because we've all got something to learn from one another. But then with that will come new experiences, new skills. I may also identify gaps in my current skill set that I think, oh, I need to plug that. And so I'll be able to do that from reaching out to other people and collaborating with others on new projects. It's not necessarily something that I'm going to go out into the ether and do completely on my own. It might be that I partner with people I knew already to sort of fill a little gap for them, but we're doing something collaboratively. And so that then it all sort of snowballs, doesn't it? And so that's what I'm actually really excited about doing, because I think I'd like to broaden myself back out again and sort of dip my toe back into waters that I'd previously sort of left, which would be nice.
So my core question is, will you be happy to come back and talk to us again around your journey and how you've been getting on?
Absolutely. Anytime. I'll come back. Brilliant. Anytime.
And then one final question. What is your least favourite interview question?
Do you know what? Sometimes I do internally go, oh God, when someone goes, so tell us about yourself. But what does that mean? What do you want? What do you want from me? Because you feel like you sort of think, well, what do I say? What don't I say? And I tend to just suddenly run down the garden path of my entire backstory. And I sit there thinking, am I boring them? I don't know. But yeah, and I never know kind of how much of my my own side, the real me, how much of that can come through, because that's often the first question as well. So it sort of sets the tone for the rest of the interview, and you haven't quite gauged who the panel are really, and got that kind of relationship going yet. Normally by the end of an interview, I've got everybody laughing and we're having a bit of a kind of bit more of a relaxed conversation. But as a starter for 10, I sometimes find that can throw me off sometimes if you can't quite read the room yet. Yeah.
Brilliant. That's a great answer. Lisa, thank you so much for joining today. I really appreciate your time, and wish you the absolute best of luck in your continuing job search.
Thank you very much, Steve, and you.
So we're going to go into the practical steps of how to build a personal brand, but I just want to be really clear before I share these steps. This is not a follow these hacks and you will become irresistible by Friday type of episode. This is just the process that's helped me and what has grounded my decision making when everything felt a bit floaty. When I've got clarity on my personal brand, it changes how I apply for roles and how I talk about myself, how I network, and how I decide what's worth my time. It stops me from chasing things that are shiny but wrong. It also stops me from hiding the stuff I'm actually good at just because I think it's normal and therefore not special. So I've got 5 steps for you that can help establish a personal brand that's true, useful, and not cringe. So step 1 is collecting your evidence, not the adjectives. The fastest way to get stuck is to start a personal brand with vague words like passionate, hardworking, driven, people person. Though none of those words are wrong, but they're also not helpful because everyone can say them. Instead, you want evidence. You want examples of what you actually do that creates value. It would be great if you could think of 3 moments from your working life where you made something better. You improved the process, solved a problem, calmed chaos, helped a team, untangled confusion, and then just write those down in simple language using this structure. This was the situation, this was the mess, this is what I did, and this is what changed. Don't overthink it. You're not writing a case study, you're just collecting proof. Because your personal brand should be based on what you repeatedly do well, not what you wish you were good at. Now, step 2 is identifying your default mode under pressure. And this is one of the most useful things that I've learned. In redundancy, there's a lot of talk about skills, but we talk less about how people operate. Your personal brand is not just what you can do, it's how you do it, especially when things are difficult. So asking yourself the question, when things get messy, what do people rely on me for? Do they rely on you to bring structure and clarity? They're relying on you to bring calm and reassurance, to connect the dots and align people, or to get work over the line. That default mode is a big part of your personal brand. It's also the thing you underestimate, because to you it feels like common sense. It's not common sense, it's you. So step 3 is choosing your 3 promises. And this is where we turn that evidence into something you can actually use. So your personal brand can be expressed as 3 promises. These aren't promises like, I will never, ever, ever make a mistake. These are promises like, this is what you can expect from me. So here's a template that I found useful. Promise 1 is about your value. It starts with, I help. So for example, I help teams understand what customers are struggling with and turn that into action. Promise 2 is about your method. It starts with, I do it by. For example, I do it by combining insight, storytelling, and practical delivery so it doesn't die in PowerPoint. Promise 3 is about your vibe. It starts with, people experience me as. For example, people experience me as calm, clear, and relentlessly focused on what will actually make a difference. Those are just random examples. Yours will be different. But if you can write 3 promises that feel true, you have a personal brand that you could use in your CV, your LinkedIn, your interview answers, and your networking chats. Step 4 is about creating a 1-sentence and a 1-minute version. So a personal brand is only useful if you can actually say it out loud without sounding like you've swallowed a corporate handbook. So you need 2 versions. The one sentence version is what you'd say if someone asked, "So what do you do?" and you wanted to answer in a way that makes sense. The 1 minute version is what you'd say if someone asked you, "Tell me about yourself," in an interview. So here's a simple structure for the one sentence version. It's essentially, I'm someone who does the thing for these people so that this outcome happens. And to show you how that sounds about me, I would say I'm someone who translates customer and colleague insight into friction-reducing improvements for product, digital, and service teams so that experiences become clearer, fairer, and easier. When it comes to the 1 minute version, the structure is basically, I've spent my career doing, and you give a theme. I'm strongest when you give your method. People tend to value me because, and then you outline your vibe and your outcomes. And right now I'm looking for roles where I can, and then the direction you want to head. So again, when I talk about myself in this way, I'd say something like, I've spent my career turning customer and colleague feedback into practical improvements that teams can actually deliver. I'm strongest when I'm running end-to-end listening cycles, shaping the questions, getting participation, pulling out real themes in the verbatims and translating that into clear priorities, dashboards, and a plan that owners can execute. People value me because I'm calm, evidence-led, and I make complex insights feel simple and actionable with a strong storytelling and focus on outcomes, not just slides. Right now, I'm looking for roles where I can sit at the intersection of insight, engagement, and change, improving journeys, enabling leaders, and making sure listening leads to visible action. So that's all a mouthful, but you get the idea. I'm very clear in terms of what I can support and what I can deliver. And basically, the goal for all of this is not about perfection. Your goal is just something that sounds like you and feels stable. Because if you don't have a stable version, you're going to end up improvising. And improvising under pressure is where we accidentally describe ourselves like a job advert or imply that our skill set includes those of a clown. Step 5 is about applying it and using that as a filter. So the personal brand is not just something you write, it's something that you refer to make your decisions. So you use it to filter job ads that you're looking at. You use it to decide whether to say yes to a call, and you use it to shape what you post. It's a guide for what examples you're bringing into an interview. So a simple test that I like to use is when I look at an opportunity, I ask, does this let me do the things that I want to be known for? And if the answer is yes, I lean in, and if the answer is no, I'm going to pause. And if the answer is sort of, but it is mostly admin and I will slowly disappear inside a spreadsheet, I'm politely backing away. Because the point of a personal brand is not to make you look good. The point is to help you aim your effort at things that fit and stop wasting energy trying to force yourself into a shape that doesn't belong to you. So those 5 steps are what I found helpful in just being clear on my own personal brand, and hopefully they're going to be enough to let you build your own that feels real, grounded, and useful. So what's the takeaway? Your personal brand is not something you invent, it's just something you name. It's the pattern of value you create, the way you work, and the experience people have of you. It exists already. You're just making it clearer so you can carry it with you no matter where you work next. And when you describe it simply, you stop feeling like you're starting from zero every time you meet someone new. You make it easier for other people to understand you and help you. You also make it easier for you to make decisions with confidence because you have a stable sense of what you're building towards. If you want a tiny action to take after this episode, do this. Write your 3 promises. 1 about value you create, 1 about how you do it, and 1 about how people experience you. Then turn that into a 1-sentence version you can actually say out loud. And if you know someone who's navigating redundancy or a career pivot and keeps saying, I don't even know what I'm doing anymore, please share this episode with them. Just drop them the link and it's a little calm act of friendship. And that's essentially it for today. I'm still not entirely sure what my personal brand is, but I can tell you this, it is not a blazer and it's not a laughing coffee photo. I don't know anything about Synergy. It is at most me in a hoodie, a slightly haunted inbox, and a person doing their best to stay useful and stay human. Thank you for listening to today's show, and thank you again, Lisa, for joining us and talking to us about your experiences and your thoughts on personal brand. It is really appreciated. And if you're asking yourself now what, you're in the right place. Before you go, it's a quick favour. If you like this episode, please hit follow or subscribe. I know every podcast says that, but apparently it actually does something to the mysterious algorithms, and it helps me pretend I'm not just talking to my kettle. So go on, give it a tap.